top story we're tracking at this hour. Dropping a bombshell of sorts, the US has said it would try and find its place in efforts to de-escalate India-Pakistan tensions and not wait till something happens, indicating that President Donald Trump could play a role in such efforts. Haley, a senior Indian-American member of the Trump cabinet, said she expects that the administration is going to be in talks to try and find its place to be a part of de-escalating tensions. She made the remarks when asked if the US can make any efforts to get India and Pakistan together for peace talks, as tensions between the two neighbours over Kashmir have risen. The remarks are the first time that Haley or any member of the Trump cabinet has addressed tensions between India and Pakistan. The previous administration under President Barack Obama had maintained that Kashmir was a bilateral issue between the two neighbours. On talks with Pakistan, India has ruled out any third-party mediation, including by the UN or the US. Pakistan, on the other hand, wants to have interlocutors from both the world body as well as Washington to resolve the Kashmir issue. Listen in to what Nikki Haley said, and then we'll get you some reactions to that.
Thank you very much. Madam Ambassador, my name is Masood Haider. I represent Daily Dawn newspaper of Pakistan. As you know, that India and Pakistan have been dagger drawn on Kashmir issue. And recently, more than ever before, there are human rights abuses in occupied Kashmir. Even when Prime Minister Modi went day before yesterday to Kashmir, the whole of Kashmir Valley shut down. Can United States make any effort to get these two together to talk peace? Because India does not want to have an interlocutor. Pakistan agrees to an interlocutor that yes, we will accept United States as an interlocutor or any other country, but India doesn't. So what do you think you can do to bring these two enemies together?
I think it's absolutely right, and this administration is concerned about the relationship between India and Pakistan, and very much wants to see how we de-escalate any sort of conflict going forward. So I would expect that the administration is going to be in talks and try and find its place to be a part of that. We don't think we should wait until something happens. We very much think that we should be proactive in the way that we're seeing tensions rise and conflicts start to bubble up, and so we want to see if we can be a part of that. So I think that will be something that you will see members of the National Security Council participate in, but also wouldn't be surprised if the President participates in that as well.
Anne?
Let's now go across to our Foreign Affairs editor, Geeta Mohan, who's closely tracking that story for us and is, in fact, also getting us reactions to this development. Geeta, this may sound like music to the ears of Pakistan, that has always sought to internationalize the Kashmir issue, but India is unlikely to be amused by this. In fact, every time such an issue has come up in the past, India has made its objections very, very clear. Of course, even during the 2016 a presidential campaign, we saw Donald Trump express similar intent, but now coming as it does from a key member of the Trump cabinet, this does seem to assume different proportions altogether.
Absolutely, but not the first time that somebody from the U.S. administration has hinted at such a thing. In the past, President Donald Trump, in his conversation with Prime Minister Narendra Modi, had spoken about the areas that there can be cooperation and the fact that there can be some sort of a cooperation or help if India needs to de-escalate tension, that U.S. can come of help. Nikki Haley only trying to reiterate that very same thing, where she is trying to echo what President Donald Trump has been saying in terms of the kind of presence and intervention that U.S. can really create, so to say, between India and Pakistan. India's stand is very clear that India is not going to take any third-party intervention. These are questions that are being put and that have been put forth by Pakistani journalists in New York and in D.C. to various officials. And Nikki Haley talking about the de-escalation of tension, certainly this administration is new to the intricacies of India-Pakistan relations, to the intricacies and how many countries have tried to intervene and have suffered at the hands of this bitter conflict that takes place between India and Pakistan, because India has made it very clear that any such comment or any such movement or action on the front of intervening between India and Pakistan could really end up with with India. And
all right,
and
Geeta,
that
give me a moment. I'll come back to you in just a moment. But let's first get some political reactions to this development. We now join on the phone line by Manish Tiwari, senior leader of the Congress. Mr. Tiwari, the Trump administration indicating that they may want to find a place in de-escalating tensions between India and Pakistan. That is the exact quote of Nikki Haley. This is not going to amuse India, because our position has been very clear: no third-party mediation whatsoever. But really, how should we see this statement coming as it does from a key member of the Trump administration? And we know even in the past, Donald Trump has expressed similar intent.
Well, it's an extremely nuanced statement, and so therefore we do not need to tilt at windmills. Sobriety in international relations demands that we state our position clearly but firmly, that there is no place for any third-party mediation between India and Pakistan. Having said that, if the United States of America leans heavily on Pakistan in order to dismantle the infrastructure of terror, which is the essential problem from India's point of view, it definitely would have a salutary effect. So therefore, rather than throwing the baby out of the bathwater, there is a need to do some little hair splitting and tell the Americans that, look, the Simla Agreement of 1972 makes it absolutely clear that whatever disputes are there between India and Pakistan, they will be resolved bilaterally. But insofar as the problem of terror is concerned, terror is a global problem, and the epicenter of terror does lie in Pakistan. After all, Osama bin Laden was found in Abbottabad and not in Allahabad. So therefore, if the United States of America is serious in dealing with terror in a seamless manner, if it wants to finish off the ISIS in Syria and Iraq, these are also manifestations of the same terror.
Right. But Mr. Tiwari, if I could ask you this, you make an important point there that perhaps India has repeatedly, tried to get, America to bring pressure to bear on Pakistan to rein in those terror elements that operate from its soil, and perhaps any intervention of that nature is something that India is likely to welcome. But then isn't that a double-edged sword? Because the moment you talk about mediation or intervention of any kind, something that would be music to the ears of Pakistan, because they've always sought to internationalize the Kashmir issue, it is almost like walking into a trap. That's something that India has always steered clear of. So isn't this a double-edged sword?
And let me explain it to you why it isn't. Because in 1972, when the Simla Agreement delineated the disputes between India and Pakistan, terror was not a part of that paradigm. Cross-border terror and the strategy of leading India with 1,000 cuts is a post-1972 Simla Agreement paradigm which the Pakistanis have put in place. So therefore, you need to compartmentalize the two things. Insofar as the disputes are concerned, whether it is Kashmir, whether it is Sir Creek, whether it is Siachen, whether it is anything else, they fall into one basket. Insofar as terror is concerned, because of its global manifestations, it falls into another basket. So therefore, if America wants to intervene in order to dismantle the infrastructure of terror in Pakistan, if that is what the intent of proactivity, as Nikki Haley seeks to describe it, is, I don't think we should have a knee-jerk reaction to that.
Let's not have a knee-jerk reaction is your advice. Very quickly, Mr. Tiwari, before we let you go, this is not the first time that the U.S. has sought to intervene between India and Pakistan. Even President Obama had expressed similar intent back in 2008. But, you know, those attempts were rebuffed by India and met with very stiff opposition. This time round, you said this is a more nuanced position. What would your advice to the government of India be? How should the Modi government react to this statement?
It would be the first time that a third party would be intervening on issues concerning India and Pakistan. And our foreign policy has very categorically been followed very strictly over the years, in which there has been no third party involvement.
All right, we are continuing to get reactions to that development. Tom Vadakan of the Congress there saying that India's position has always been very clear, no third-party mediation in Kashmir whatsoever. Let me go back to our Foreign Affairs editor, Geeta Mohan, who is tracking that story very closely. It's quite interesting, Geeta, that, you know, you have Tom Vadakan of the Congress stating India's well-known position on this, that we will not accept third-party mediation of any kind. This is a bilateral issue. It is something that India has repeated at every international forum over the last several decades. But we were talking to Manish Tiwari of the Congress, who said India should not have a knee-jerk reaction to what Nikki Haley has said, that the US seems to have taken a more nuanced position this time, and that if we can use this as an opportunity to perhaps get America to pressurize Pakistan to rein in terror elements operating from its soil, then perhaps it is something to be welcomed. But do you feel the Modi government is likely to view it as that?
Well, there are two things, Neha, in this question of yours. One is the issue of terrorism, which Manish Tiwari has been focusing on in his answer. And in that, India has never shied away from asking the United States of America, given that they also have similar kind of intelligence on Pak state involvement in terrorism emanating from Pakistan and destroying the fabric of India. And in that, ensuring that US does come in and pressurize Pakistan, because US has influence over Pakistan. On the other hand, the question to Nikki Haley, Neha, was very specific to the issue of Kashmir. And there can be no two ways. The Indian government, be it the UPA or for that matter the NDA, are very clear on the stand that India has on Kashmir. There can be no third-party intervention, period. So the question was very specific. Nikki Haley should have known the intricacies and the problems that exist between India and Pakistan before having responded in the manner in which she has responded. But also, it is a very important hint or a response as to how the Trump administration might be viewing India-Pak ties. And in that, India certainly will not want any intervention from the United States of America.
Right, so that's an important point, perhaps an indication of a shift in US's policy on India-Pakistan relations and the Kashmir issue. But at the same time, Geeta, as you mentioned there, this is likely to irk New Delhi, and the Modi administration is unlikely really to welcome what has been stated by Nikki Haley.